بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I praise Allah, I thank Allah, I ask Allah to raise the rank and the status of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. I ask Allah tabarak wa ta'ala to grant us the sincere intention. Inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala, we'll take this brief session today to review some of what we covered yesterday, but to clarify some concerns that were brought to me about yesterday's session. So I want to clarify some things that I think are extremely important. So I'm only going to do this class brief and a quick review from what Ghazali said, and then I want to clarify some issues to you, inshallah. Barakallahu bikum. Let's recite Al-Fatiha to the soul of Imam Al-Ghazali. Al-Fatiha.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu wa-salamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah have mercy on him, said. Page 35. Purification has 4 degrees. The first is the purification of one's outward from ritual impurity as well as from physical impurities. The second degree is the purification of one's limbs from offenses and sins. The third is the purification of one's heart from blameworthy traits and abhorrent vices. The fourth is the purification of one's inmost secret from anything other than Allah, exalted is He. This is the purification of the prophets, may Allah's blessings be upon them, and the true saints.
So let's take 2 types of definitions which are understood from this. A tahara, purification, in itself linguistically means cleanliness. So when we say purification in the language, it means cleanliness. So that's what we call a lugawi meaning, right? A linguistic meaning. Then it has a shar'i meaning, a technical religious meaning. And when we say that, it essentially can mean lifting the state of ritual impurity and removing unexcusable filth, which we call a najasa, or which has that format or its meaning. And we'll discuss those details later. But for right now, linguistically it means cleanliness, a tahara, purification. Religiously, lifting the state of ritual impurity or removing the unexcused filth. And Imam al-Ghazali is then going to talk about the various levels of that purification. So, in other words, purification is going to deal with the outward, which is the body, and it's going to deal with the inward at the different stages of the inward realities of individuals. So, outwardly, you're going to have what affects the limbs and the state of the body. So, al-ahdaf, the state of ritual impurity, whether it's minor or major, is a state that must be lifted. And then you have the physical filth that affects the body, the place, the clothes, and what one carries in the prayer that must be cleansed. Then you have a purification in meaning, which means preventing your limbs from sinning, which is the cleanliness of the limbs. In other words, don't transgress the sacred law with your limbs. So from that, as Al-Habib Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tahir mentioned in his treatise or his book, Sulam at-Tawfiq, the sins of the heart, the hands, the feet, the eyes, the ears, the tongue, the entire body. He mentioned those sins that pertain to each limb and what is needed to avoid in order to purify those limbs from sin. The most important of all those limbs is the heart. As the scholars, they said, the heart is the leader of the body's army. Its soldiers are the limbs, and the leader of those soldiers is the heart. And the Prophet ﷺ indicated that when he said, verily, there is a piece of flesh in the body. If it is sound, the whole body is sound. If it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. Ala wa hiya al-qalb. And verily, it is the heart. So as the heart go in uprightness or corruption, the body will follow it, because the soldiers follow the orders of their commander. And the heart is the commander of the limbs. So it needs to be purified from blameworthy characteristics and vile attributes. How do we identify those blameworthy characteristics and vile attributes? We identify it by the sacred law. From the sacred law, we know which characteristics should we adorn ourselves with and what characteristics we must remove from ourselves. So we have this tahliya and takhliya. We have this adorning and divesting, like getting rid of. At a higher level, you're talking about the state of your relationship with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. In other words, there is never a moment that you are not at the innermost reality of your being, connected present with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. That's the state when you realize al-amru kullahu lillah, that the entire affair belongs to Allah. And in that affair, you see nothing but Allah. So even though the creation is in front of you, you see the divine working of the Creator through the creation, as if the creation has disappeared and only the divine act is present. That's the high ranks of the awliya and the ranks of the prophets, alayhimus salatu wassalam. Go ahead.
Moreover, purification at the level described for each of these degrees is counted as only half of the work required at each of these levels.
Here, work is important. The human being will get nothing except what they strive for. So in every level, there is a degree of struggle. You must work to attain the ranks of men, as they say. And we say men, we mentioned yesterday, the man is defined as the one who knows the rights of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala upon him, and he fulfills them with excellence. So in this definition, men and women both can attain that. What is that rank? To know the rights of Allah upon you and to fulfill them with excellence. And when Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam asked the Prophet about sallallahu alayhi wasallam about excellence, he said, excellence is that you worship Allah as though you see him, and though you cannot see him, know that he sees you. That's excellence. And that is the state of your worship. You worship, and worship in its most broad meaning encompasses every facet of your existence. Allahu Akbar. Worship and ibadah, in that sense, encompasses your entire existence. There is nothing in existence related to you except that it is an aspect of worship when you are a person of realization. So not the blinking of an eye, except there is worship in that. No state of rest or movement, except there is worship in that. This is the state of excellence. And all of those states involve effort, involve struggling to arrive at a state of realization. Honestly, we need to strive for this. And everyone will have the portion of these realities that Allah Ta'ala eternally willed for them. And you have to learn to be on earth as you will be in paradise. What do I mean? If you make it to paradise, may Allah allow us to enter Jannah without any previous torture. There will be ranks and levels in paradise, and everyone will be content with the level of paradise that Allah has given them, despite the fact that there will be others who have a much higher rank than them. Allahu Akbar. But the enjoyment at their level will be so intense that they will not even pay attention to the enjoyment of someone else at another level. So there is no jealousy, there is no envy, there is no eagerness to have what others have. The endowments that Allah gives each individual in Jannah for them will be as if there is no other enjoyment. Allahu Akbar. On the physical level, you must see that every gift of worship in any aspect of your existence that Allah has favored with you is something special for you, and you should rejoice in that, despite what others may possess of these endowments. And wherever Allah opened the door for His divine service for you, that is His gift to you. And never look somewhere else. One of the biggest ways to miss the gifts of Allah to you is to pay attention to the gifts that He has given to others. And every gift of divine service is a door for you to paradise. Allahu Akbar. Every gift in any aspect of your life that opens a door for you to a divine service, to ibadah for Allah, it is a gift that is an opening to a door to paradise for you. This was mentioned yesterday, as it was known about Sayyiduna Sheikh Ahmad al-Rifai, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the great knower of Allah, who said, I observe all the doors that admit to paradise, and I noticed that they were crowded except the door of humbleness, which is actually humble service to the creation. He said, so I entered through that door. That was a door that was open. And sometimes the door is open for you in things that even the elite may not pay attention to. One time, one of the students of my sheikh, he said to him, one of the students of my sheikh, he told me, he said, in the majlis of the sheikh, there is a person who whenever he's there, there is an easy access to the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this person is like a door to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, easy door. If he's around, boom, access is available. The presence is there. If he's not around, it's not that easy. So this is in Damascus. So I'm saying to myself, I went to the sheikh and I asked him, who's this person? Like, because I didn't know him, right? And the sheikh, he said to me, you wouldn't know him if I told you. I said, well, tell me. He said, he's nobody. He's a nobody that you would notice. Not that he's nobody. He's somebody, but nobody that you would notice. He said, I said, then how did he get this state? He said he would go and collect money from the wealthy people. He would take that money and buy bread and go to the far out mountainous areas, country areas, and he would feed the poor of those areas with that bread for that money. And it was his habit that he would do that. And by doing that, he got a special connection with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That whenever he attends a gathering, access to that gathering with his presence to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is facilitated. And I'm sitting there like, that's it. He said, that's it. That's his secret. I said, subhanallah. You would have never thought that, right? The people of knowledge, realization, I mean, not outward knowledge, inward knowledge. The knowledge of spiritual secrets and doors. They recognize he became a door to just serving bread with a sincere intention. He wasn't wealthy, he wasn't popular, he wasn't a big sheikh. He just was a person who would go to the rich, collect money, buy bread, go feed the poor. And through that, he became a door to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Isn't that amazing? You think about it. It wasn't a bunch of knowledge. It wasn't a bunch of prayer. It wasn't a bunch of salah ala nabi. It wasn't a bunch of dhikr. It wasn't a memorizing the Quran. It wasn't becoming a scholar. It was feeding the poor with a sincere intention, encouraging the rich to spend of their wealth with a sincere intention, supporting Muslim business people who sold bread and made bread with a sincere intention. And all of that being in the service gave him that rank. That was it. And he became beloved to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through that. So by analogy, one would know that there's many ways to the door of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which leads to the door of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And if you do any of those things with excellence and diligent work, you'll arrive to a place where you will have what no eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard, and no heart of the human being has ever felt as a reward for what you used to do. So half of it is the state, and another half of it is the actions that lead to that state.
For instance, the utmost that the work of the heart aims to achieve is filling itself with praiseworthy traits and legitimate beliefs. However, the heart will not be filled with those unless it is also cleansed from blameworthy traits and unsound beliefs. Thus, purifying one half is dependent on purifying the second half. And it is in this sense that cleanliness is half of faith.
So here we mention, and I'm going to come back to clarify this, those beliefs that are sanctioned by the sacred law are the foundations or the foundation of our building of actions, both outwardly and inwardly. So every act that we do, whether it is an act of the body or an act of the heart, the foundation for the acceptance of those actions are sound beliefs that are sanctioned by the sacred law. It's the foundation of the building of actions. The structure of actions, its foundation is a sound belief, a sound creed. Know this, be sure, and be certain. Without it, you cannot erect an excellent building of actions. Without it, you cannot erect an excellent structure of actions. And this foundation it is the aspect of all our religious practices, because that's an inward practice, that is under attack. The sound creed. If I told you, I want to make an analogy to you. You have a house. And I told you the foundation of your house is mostly concrete and solid, but 10% or 20% or 30% of the foundation has quicksand surrounded by concrete. But there are portions in the foundation that is quicksand. Or just soft soil. But most of it, 90%, 80%, 70%, go up, is the sound foundation. Would you accept to buy that house that was built on that foundation? I would like everyone to answer. Please, would you accept to purchase that house? It's a beautiful house, luxurious. Your model, your dream structure, the dream structure, whatever you imagine, but it's on that kind of foundation. Who would buy? You can visualize this, right? Since you all said no, you understand structures. You understand structures. The creed in Islam, al-Aqidah, is that structure. And every aspect of deviance is that portion or percentage of the quicksand or soft soil within that structure. That's an analogy you need to understand. So the creed of Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah is that structure which you're going to build, that luxurious, beautiful structure of deeds, prayer, fasting, zakat, hajj, dhikr, salat ala nabi, good manners, brotherhood, unity. All of those things in the structure is built on the sound creed, the belief, and the conviction. And every aspect of misguidance, vile innovation, is the quicksand and the soft soil within that structure. If your creed is 90% right and 10% of innovations, deviations, you have a foundation of that house that you told me you won't buy. You have a foundation there. I just took the structure off top and started with the foundation and described it. Don't build your house on that. Your house of pious deeds in every aspect is built on that foundation. And that's why the action of the heart, its extreme objective is to cultivate and establish and make firm that sound creed. So even if you work with the good manners and behaviors, if you don't take care of that issue of the creed, you will be a loser. Even if the structure stands, as our sister said, one good rain and it's over. We want to be winners in the hereafter. Go ahead.
Likewise, the purification of the limbs is one half, and causing them to thrive by means of acts of obedience is the other half.
So, purifying your limbs from sins is one half, then actually doing acts of obedience is what will make it sound. So you can purify, but if you don't do the work, it's not going to help you. So even if you don't commit the sins, you must add to that the acts of obedience. Now,
These, therefore, are the stations of faith, and each station contains a category. No servant shall ever attain a higher station unless he.
these stations of faith, in reality, they're called maqamatul iman. In reality, they are maqamat, stations of al-yaqeen, certainty. All these stations in reality are stations of the station of al-yaqeen, certainty. Now,
No
they are
servant.
stations of the stations of al-yaqeen, certainty. So we call them maqamat al-yaqeen, the stations of certainty.
No servant shall ever attain a higher station unless he traverses the station that comes before it.
Mm.
He shall not be able to purify his inmost secret from blameworthy traits and fill it with praiseworthy traits unless he empties his heart of blameworthy characteristics. and he will not be able to achieve the latter unless he purifies his limbs.
Allahu Akbar.
Now, if you have understood these preliminary remarks, and that purification has 4 degrees, you should know that in this book, The Secrets of Purification, we deal only with the 4th degree, which is the cleanliness of the outward. For in the first half of this book, we do not intentionally deal with anything except the outward. We shall say that the purification of the outward consists of 3 parts: purification from filth,
Filth meaning najis, that thing which is religiously filthy. So it doesn't necessarily mean dirt.
purification from ritual impurity, purification
So
from
that's
the
al-adath. That is the state of impurity that is not observed by the senses.
and purification from the excess of the body.
So you having the cleaning of the body, removing of najasa, and lifting of states. Inshallah, next week we'll start going to those in detail, inshallah. I'll stop there. And I want to, with the reading, I want to clarify some things because it was brought to my attention and I think it deserves to be understood. Please understand this. Islam, the deen of Islam, has beliefs, practices, and spiritual states and stations at its core. So the core aspects of al-Islam are sound creedal convictions, established foundational creedal convictions, sound, valid external practices, and thriving inward states and stations of spirituality. That's Islam. And everything other than that is a means to that. It's a means to acquiring those 3 core aspects of the deen. So Islam has a belief system that I mentioned is the foundation of everything else. It is a personal obligation on every morally responsible individual to know those foundational beliefs. It's obligatory. The one who does not do that is a major sinner. Who neglects to learn those matters is a major sinner. And the one who denies those foundational matters is not counted among the Muslims. That is in our religion. That's real. Whatever opposes those core, essential matters of the creed are not accepted. As far as their judgment, there are levels of severity in terms of their deviation. But anytime there is a departure from those core, fundamental, foundational, creedal convictions, it is not accepted. Whether that deviation is a small deviation or a major deviation, minor or major, it's not accepted to deviate from the core, foundational, established creedal beliefs in Islam that must be known by everyone who is morally responsible. Is this point clear for everyone? That point in itself, is that extremely clear? I'll give you a second to answer. One thing about online, sometimes you're not able to see if people understand. Until you talk to them in person, it's like, oh, you never understood. Why didn't you say it when we was online? So I have a few minutes. I'll come back tomorrow, inshallah, and continue because I have to go. But I'll finish this point. Is that understood? That's understood according to most of us, right? So you have the correct creed, which is known as Aqidatu Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So I put it, Aqidatu Ahli Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Right? There is a such thing as Aqidatu Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah. It has a meaning and an importance because it is the vehicle by which the foundational established creedal convictions in Islam is transmitted. So I talked about these foundational, established, essential creedal issues that you cannot depart from. The vehicle by which they are conveyed to the masses is by way of the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's how we learn them. So we have two things we have to discover from this terminology. Who are Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and what is that Aqidah? What are their creeds? What do they believe? Both are essential. Because that is the vehicle by which we learn it. So tomorrow, inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala, tomorrow morning, if Allah gives us tawfiq, I want to clarify this and more, expound. I suggest to you, all of you who are able, to attend this lecture series in Atlantic City that's coming up September the 28th. At Masjid Muhammad in Atlantic City. There is the link that you can register. It's going across and it's in the chat box. You can click that link and register. Because we're going to go into this issue with a lot of details in a comparative approach so you can recognize the concrete foundation and the areas that are left with quicksand or soft soil and identify it so you can fix those areas so that your whole foundation is a firm, solid, reinforced concrete foundation so that you can build a structure properly. But in saying that, I want you to know there is a such thing as deviance from the proper creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And it has degrees. There is a trend that I personally believe is the most dangerous thing we're facing in our time. That's my personal belief. I could be right, I could be wrong. I don't believe I'm wrong. In fact, I'm probably 1,000% convinced, 1,000% convinced that I'm absolutely correct. But Allah knows and I don't know. And what I mean by that, the mixing of deviant creeds and convictions with the well-established foundational essential creed of Islam and the Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the mixing them based on the structure that looks good, I think we're going to fall and our building's going to crumble because of those quicksand gaps or soft soil gaps in our foundation that we don't address. It's my personal belief. We're putting windows, we're putting curtains, we're painting, we're putting beautiful siding, chandeliers inside, circle steps, whatever, tile floors. We're doing all that. It looks great, but we have never addressed these problems in the foundation. Eventually, that's going to prove to be a mistake. So in the name of unity, we're allowing our foundation to be compromised. I don't think that's wise. That's my honest feeling. And I think if we're not careful, I believe, we're going to pass that to a generation who won't even pay attention to the foundation at all. They'll just look at the structure. And the building's going to collapse on their head. And we would be the ones at fault. It has happened in the past, and history repeats itself if you don't learn from it. So I say, let's address the foundation now. Let's make it clear. Let's make it understood. Then let's build the house. And even if aspects of the house is already up, let's go back and fix those foundational flaws. That is the creed of Islam. Don't ignore it. And what is worse is we have salesmen, realtors, in the figurative meaning, that are trying to sell that house with the flaws in the foundation and act like they're not problematic and want us to forget that they even exist because of the beauty of that building. the structure and what are the nice appliances inside. They want to sell us that building and forget about, they don't even talk about, they don't want us to mention the flaws in the foundation. Don't mention that. You're going to mess up the sale. Do y'all get my analogy? I think from analogies, you understand exactly what I'm saying. So that's the answer to the why do we respond to people who spreading ideas that contradict the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's why. I'm trying to be as nice as I can. But I'm not, someone said something to me yesterday. One of the sheikhs. He asked me in a nice way. I heard some things, it's got back to me about some debates, some controversy about Aqidah. I stopped him right in his tracks. I said, listen, I am from Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and I don't compromise that for nobody. He said, I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you. I'm saying, and about you being with me. If you're getting ready to tell me to compromise the foundations of the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, you know, not only the one who told you that I'm going to answer you too. He said, no, Sheikh, you missing money. I said, I'm not misunderstanding you. I want you to understand me. I don't do that. He's like, I'm with you. I said, okay, mashallah. I want you to understand that I don't do that. My name is Amin Muhammad, not Rodney King. Don't mix us up. You don't get to knock me upside the head and smack me with nightsticks and I say, okay, can't we just all get along? No. You're going to have to fix those wrongs. We're not doing that. We're not going to let that pass. Got me wrong. Sorry, pal. We don't do that. And you know better, and I know better. And here's the danger. All of us have studied, and our sheikhs, all of us have studied in the same areas, different times, but all of us share in some way the same teachers, and all of us know better. Every single one of us know better. I'm talking about people who really studied. You know better. Real Sunnis, you studied with your teachers. They were explicit. Their books are explicit. We know better. Now, your worldly objective, I understand. And you may think it's wisdom, and it may be wisdom, but don't change our way of learning, our methodology for your wisdom. I got your wisdom, and you may be right. Work it out, but don't compromise our religious principles. Use your wisdom to navigate the terrain. Ahlan wa sahlan, go for it. But please, don't put a glitch in the navigation system so we don't reach the destination. Because while you're using wisdom, Shaitan is also working to destroy. Among the shaitans of the jinn and the shaitans of the humans, they exist. Shayateen min al-ins wal jinn. So you're working and they're working too. And what I'm afraid and I'm concerned about, the common people are being led to slaughter without them knowing it. And I know what that's like. When someone doesn't clarify the truth, you can go generations of misguidance. Generations. of misguidance. And today, we're celebrating Mawlids all over the country. Just 20 years ago, 30 years ago, these gatherings, especially on the East Coast, as a norm, I'm not talking about some hidden somewhere for some special group, as a norm, was obsolete. I've been here, I've seen it, I know it, I've been on the battlefield for decades. Now people are discovering something that's been in our nation for all over the world, globally and historically. It's been part and parcel of our outward structure. But because of a segment of quicksand, of soft soil in our foundation, and the building, they've made it look like that's not a part of Islam. And now people are discovering, true, but how many generations were lost because someone didn't tell us the truth in the beginning? Especially in our community. We don't see these gatherings as a norm in the African American community. We had two gatherings, yesterday and today, in the East Coast, in this Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I mean, yesterday and the day before yesterday, Friday and Saturday. And we have a big one tomorrow. Next week. It's already sold out, probably 2,000 people, right? For the place we're at, maybe. Allah knows. Allah knows. You will not find in the inner cities across America gatherings like that with African Americans. I challenge you. Show me anywhere in the country, anywhere, where you have a gathering to celebrate the birth and life of the Prophet ﷺ, and there is 1,000 African Americans, Muslims. I challenge you to show me one place like that. And that's the purpose of the gathering, and that's what they're doing in the gathering. One place, show me. Predominantly African Americans. I say 90% of the gathering is African Americans. They're gathering to make praises and salawat and lectures about the Prophet ﷺ, life and his birth, his miracles, his shama'il, his khasa'is, his fada'il, the dala'il. That's mentioned, and it's a gathering like that, and it's 90% African American Muslims. Show me one in the entire country. I'm waiting. I know I gotta go, but please, if I ain't all around the country, I know outwardly, I'm not on the ground in every place, but outwardly, I don't know one place, and even on the ground, I don't know one place. Can someone help me? Please, tell me one place. Tell me one place. African Americans. I'm not saying Africans. I'm not saying it's a mixed crowd. 90% of the gathering, and there's 1,000 people, all African American Muslims, and that's what they gathered for, and that's what they're doing. Show me one place. You mean to tell me you can't give me one place? All of y'all? Not one place? What does that tell you? If you can get multiple places where other than African Americans are doing that, all around the world. What does that tell you happened to us? What does that tell you happened to us? I want you to think about that. And as a Muslim, as a person who learned, you can't accept that. You have to do two things. You have to figure out why that's the case, and then you have to fix it. You have to figure out why it's the case. Why is that normal? And what you going to do to fix it. That's just one example. I could elaborate the other things that relate to it that are even more severe than that. That's just an outward manifestation of an inward reality of collapsing the building on us. And yesterday, at the Mawlid al-Maqasid, I raised this issue in front of hundreds of people. If not, it might have been 1,000 there. Allahu Alam, with so many people from front to back, you couldn't count. But I raised the issue. And before I talked, out of respect, because my elder was there, Imam Zaid, I said, Imam Zaid, can I speak real? If you go to the video, when I go up to speak, you'll notice I leaned down and I was talking to Imam Zaid, because he's my elder. And I know he feels what I feel. He said, just be nice. Say it nicely, but say it. And then unfortunately, the video fell off, got interrupted, and you didn't hear the discussion. You only heard part of it. And after me, if you would have heard Imam Zaid follow up, Allahu Akbar. It was like a fire was ignited under him and he just exploded. And you saw the warrior spirit of our Muslim ancestors just rise up. That's a spirit. Those are words. We need to make them realities. And I was so happy because we were the last ones to speak. I spoke, then Imam Zaid. And we don't have anything to do with that. We don't arrange the list of speakers. We don't do none of that. I believe that that's a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us. That in that big gathering, it is sealed by generational African-American leadership. And that our beloved, my brother, who I love with all my heart, Sheikh Yahya wrote us, may Allah reward him. It's my brother. I believe his wisdom guides him to make those decisions because he's a pure soul. I think his wisdom guides him to think bigger to what we have to do as a nation because he realized the trust he has. And I know him very well. I know how he does things. I didn't have anything to do with it. I don't talk to that's his thing. I just get the invitation and come. But there's a sign in that. Because when the broader Muslim community and the African-American Muslim community unite, cooperate, coexist with ihsan, with excellence, this country is going to have a change that you would never imagine. But so long as there is disparity in the foundations of our religion and the structure and the unequal distribution of Islamic resources, that will never happen. And Shaitan's objective is to ensure that that doesn't happen. And it must be our intentional actions, the actions of the heart, the actions of the body. Ultimately, our innermost secret is to change that narrative, to make it that Islam is a mercy for everybody. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his way, his practice is a mercy for everyone. And all of us collectively work to do that. But we have to address those foundational defects, and we can't be afraid. We must address those foundational defects. Because if we approach the world with a faulty foundation, even if we have the most luxurious structure, ultimately it's going to collapse. May Allah protect this nation from collapse. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us real wisdom to see 1,000 years from now what Islam should look like. As our scholars and predecessors before us saw Islam 1,000 years after them, and we are that 1,000 years. We have to take the vision further. May Allah give us tawfiq. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Inshallah, we will start daily, maybe a couple days a week first. We're working out the schedule. We will be having afternoon lessons around 1 to 2, then that area, 12:30, 1:30, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. We're still working it out. But there will be afternoon lessons, sometimes before or after Salatul Dhuhr. We're working that out. We will at least have that at least 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday, inshallah ta'ala. So we're adding, and we're working on adding some night reading classes. So it's in the structure. I'm just making you aware. So tomorrow, most likely, will be the first day. So set your notifications with Masjid Muhammad on Facebook, on YouTube. We're still working it out. I'm just giving you a heads up. So tomorrow, we may have 2 sessions. The morning session, which is at 7 o'clock, between 7 and 7:30. And then an afternoon session. In the afternoon session, we'll be actually reading books. So we'll be returning back to reading books, finishing entire books. That will be an afternoon session. So, inshallah, let's make it happen. Barakallahu fikum wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Please register and attend this in-person seminar. I really, really need as many as you possible to fully understand the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and to understand its relationship with other things that may deviate from it. These are essential lessons for our movement and the awakening of our community. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.